Namaste. Happy New Year to everybody who's watching this video. And I haven't even thought of a title for this video yet. This is for all of you who are family or friends, relatives, family, friends, whatever, or you just know somebody in your life who suffers with CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, whether that's type 1 or type 2. It matters not. It's type 1 CRPS pain does go up to 42 out of 50 using the McGill pain scale indicator. Just to put that into perspective, 35 out of 50 is childbirth. The pain of complex regional pain syndrome is as high at type 1 as having limbs amputated without any anaesthetic. And it doesn't get any easier, but what can get easier, now I'm going to put a disclaimer out. You can't necessarily do anything that we know of right now unless you've got an absolute ton of money, unless you are absolutely rich beyond belief and you can afford hundreds of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of pounds for treatment. And even then, the treatment available that I'm going to mention shortly only reduces, for some people, reduces the pain of CRPS. There is nothing on planet Earth that is known to cure complex regional pain syndrome when it is in its later stages, in the late acute or the early to late chronic stages. Okay? So, and the pain doesn't get any easier. I can only speak for myself, and we're all different. CRPS gives us all hell on earth, right? Anybody who's got CRPS, or anybody who knows somebody who's got CRPS, who's watching this video, I do not even need to tell you the havoc, the destruction, the agony that this puts upon the one who you love, the one who you know, who is suffering with this awful disease. It is life-shattering, especially in the first year or so, the first couple of years, and in particular if it spreads. When CRPS, if CRPS, now this is a big if, complex regional pain syndrome symptoms do not spread to other parts of the body with every sufferer. But this can, and unfortunately does happen, and this has happened to me. The CRPS started in my right ankle, and then it evolved to be my entire right foot and lower leg. And then after a few years, I noticed that my left leg and knee was hurting a lot as well, and I didn't put two and two together up until very recently, as in like 2.5 years ago recently. About 2.5 years ago, about 3 years ago, I got my diagnosis, my preliminary diagnosis, CRPS type 2, right? CRPS type 2 goes up to 47 out of 50. It's the highest pain that a human being can possibly suffer from any disease known to man. Humankind. Man, woman, right, doesn't matter. Humankind. It's the most painful disease or condition that a human being can possibly acquire. But because I've got functional neurological disorder, FND, which is another nerve disease, which again makes you hypersensitive and affects the functioning of your nerves and your central nervous system, your peripheral nerves and your sympathetic nervous system. It goes hand in hand, and it's like a double whammy. It's a double shot of the shotgun, right? So it makes the already unthinkable 47 out of 50 pain flares go up to more like 50 out of 50. And that level of pain, well, I'm laid on the bed. I'm literally laid here, and I am convulsing. My body goes into spasms, uncontrollable spasms. It looks like I'm having a really severe seizure. And I've been wrongly diagnosed with that in the past. But it's CRPS and FND. It's the double whammy. It's the double effect. It's the double hit of the two diseases making each other worse. And for me personally, the disease is and has been progressing for the last 2.5, 3 years. If it really, for the last 14.5 years since I've had the disease, you see, the first few years for me, it was really on and off. I would get a few months where a few weeks to a few months where I either found it agonizing to walk, but on very, very heavy morphine, dihydrocodeine, diazepam, and tramadol, various combinations of painkillers, I could walk, sometimes unaided in the early years, and then with crutches in the last few years. But then a couple of years ago, 1.5 years ago, roughly, maybe slightly longer now, I couldn't use the crutches anymore. My wrists just gave way finally. And then I realized recently, I put 2 and 2 together, right? You only learn this later on down the line when you do your research. And I now know that I'm getting flares in my hands, in my fingers, in both my wrists, both my feet, all of my toes, both my ankles, both my lower legs, both my upper legs, both my knees, my buttocks, and my groin. And it's traveling now into my elbows and my shoulders. Now, when you're that hypersensitized all the time, it's very, very difficult. And I will be doing another video if I can manage it today. I'm doing these videos in between flares, and I've been getting more. I've been flaring more than I've not. I've been flaring more time than not, and then I've just been getting the odd hour or two, or sometimes up to 4 hours or 5 hours, where I get what's called a pain break, an LPD, lower pain day. But I don't seem to get lower pain days anymore. I seem to get lower pain hours. It did ease off for 2 or 3 days recently, but those 2 or 3 days, when I say eased off, I was still in like 38 to 40 pain score, which is, for most people, would be intolerable. They would be screaming and screaming and screaming, even in 30, let alone 40, right? 38 to 40 seems to be my new baseline as of the last couple of months. I'm hoping that that's not the way that it's going to stay, but you have to be ready for anything with this disease. You never know when the flares are going to come. You never know what's going to happen to you. And when they hit you hard. They steamroller you down. The only thing that you can do as a friend or a relative is be there for the person who's flaring. Whether they're crying inconsolably, whether they're screaming, thrashing out in pain, if they get angry and impatient, try to understand that they're in unthinkable levels of pain. even I'm a hardened veteran, 14 and a half years, coming on 15 years CRPS and FND, and it's type 2, right? So it's the most painful type. It's the most painful conditions that or diseases that a human being can possibly acquire. So you do lose your temper sometimes, and I have found myself apologising to people and just for being sharp with people. But it's very rare that I lose it with people these days. Very rare. And I'm generally, in between flares, I'm very, very positive. Also another thing is, don't ever let any doctor or any clinician, and don't assume that somebody with complex regional pain syndrome who's going through this unthinkable pain level pretty much every day, if you're in the late acute or the early to mid chronic stage. I'm in the extra late chronic stage, and this is the worst pain that I've ever had in my life. Just be patient. Try and be patient, and it's incredibly frustrating for you to watch us going through this pain. It must be absolutely heartbreaking. I've watched my sister and my mother and my son cry and just be speechless at the pain levels that I go through, that they have to watch me go through. And I often put myself in their shoes. I think to myself, if I was watching my mum or my son or my sister or my brother or my brothers, right, either brother, go through what I'm going through, it would break my fucking heart. It would rip my heart out of my chest, and it would be devastating, to say the least. And I think they cope incredibly well. Like, the most that you can do is be there for somebody, be there for that person. And the first thing that you want to do is hug them, right? Is give them a hug or pat them on the arm and say, it's okay, you'll be all right. Don't do that. Don't assume that you can do that. When you're ultra hypersensitized, the tiniest little touch is like sharp sandpaper or razor blades cutting through your skin. And it's difficult because the first thing that you want to do, your first impulse, is to hug that person that you love or that friend that you know, and to pat them on the back. But when the patting on the back feels like someone's punching you, you don't really want to do that to them. My family have learned to give me these very, very light hugs. They barely touch me, but it shows the emotion, right? It shows that loving caringness, that caring, right? Be careful about what you research on the internet. Be careful. There are devices that can help you in some cases, but devices that have helped some people with CRPS, or so they claim, have devastated me. And the Oscar Pulse device was one. Now, just because it made me far, far worse, it doesn't mean that it might help you, right? If you've got CRPS, it might help you. My advice is to put it on the lowest possible setting, and don't do it for 90 minutes like I did. Do it for like 5 minutes, and then build it up to 10 minutes if you're okay, right? And then maybe the following day build it up to 15 minutes and gradually increase it. I used that Oscar Pulse unit and I put it on full power and I ran it for the full 90 minutes. And my God, it looked like my ankle had been snapped in several places, dislocated. It swelled to the size of a tennis ball. My ankle, easily, if not bigger, within 30 minutes. And because I had a pillow under and over my leg, I felt the throbbing, but I really wanted to give this device a try, and I've read that it's helped some people. Another thing that didn't help me, that made me far worse, was, I forget what it's called, but it's an electrical stimulator pad. I thought I could build my calf muscles back up again by stimulating it with electric shocks. It gives you very minor electric shocks. It's like a pad that you put your feet on, and it gives you electric impulses. Bad idea for me. Any electrical impulse therapy or any electromagnetic therapy machinery has made me personally far worse. It's massively exasperated and worsened the CRPS. But that's not to say that it might help you, right? I'm just saying, err to the side of caution. Always err to the side of caution. And don't necessarily believe reviews that you read on Amazon or eBay or any other seller's site. Go very careful. If you can, cut down your sugar intake. That's a good tip. If you can, cut out alcohol completely. I stopped drinking entirely. I'd cut down massively a few years ago to only drinking on rare occasions, and only drinking like 1 or 2 cans of lager and leaving the rest in the fridge. And I got to the point where I could do that, no problem. But then about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when the CRPS got far worse, I cut alcohol out entirely. Try and eat as healthily as you possibly can. Try and eat low FODMAP foods. You can research that for yourself. I'm trying to keep this brief because of the time. I'm struggling to lay here, and I need to turn this video off soon. I'm going to be doing further videos. Just be there for the family member, for the friend. Just be there and be a shoulder to cry on. Be there for them, and just tell them that you love them. Don't tell them that that they're going to be all right, because it's kind of insulting. It's not insulting, but it's kind of, when you're in screaming, agonizing pain, and somebody's telling you you're going to be all right, you're going to be all right. Just you're all right. You're all right. You're not all right. You're not all right, and you're not going to be all right unless a miracle happens. And my pain levels have gotten worse over time, but so has, as my pain has gotten far worse, my resilience and tolerance has gotten far higher. I've become a much stronger person. I'm the strongest version of myself now that I have ever been in my life. I have no fears, and nothing phases me anymore. Nothing. And no one. Nothing can faze me anymore. I'm the strongest warrior version of myself that I've ever been in my life. And my God, to make it 14, coming up 15 years with CRPS type 2 and FND, you are a warrior to even be here. And the last thing I'm going to say to finish this off, because I need to roll over, I need to turn over. You are stronger than anybody. You are more of a warrior. Those of you with CRPS and FND, or both. You are the strongest person on planet Earth. You are the warrior. You are the greatest warrior that ever walked the earth. You are more of a warrior than any bare-knuckle fighter. You are more of a warrior than any soldier. You are an absolute trooper to even be alive, to be here. And just when you think that you can't take any more and you feel like giving up, pause, stop, and hold on. Because I promise you, just when you think you've reached your absolute limit and you cannot take any more, you will become more resilient and more tolerant, and you will do it, and you will get past that point. Do things get any easier? No. Do you get tougher? Yes. If you just hold on and believe in yourself. You can do it, and you won't believe what I'm saying now, but I'm coming up 15 years with this god awful disease, and I'm the strongest version of myself now that I have ever been in my life. You are stronger than you ever thought possible. Hold in there. Okay. One love. Namaste.